Welcome from the Office for Education Policy. I'm Denise Arola, Associate Director, and today I'd like to do a quick overview of a new LEA Insights module that relates to teacher merit pay. It is the new Teacher Growth Score Data and Trends module. We're going to take a quick 10 slides to talk about this module. What is the purpose of the module? What data are included? Who has access, and how are these data different from Classroom Value-Added Growth module? And we're going to insert some information about merit pay. You might remember that last year we had a module called TVAM, Teacher Value-Added Measures. That was for the 2023 teacher merit pay, and that module is gone. And in its place is now this Teacher Growth Score Data and Trends module. It's not the same as the Classroom Value-Added Growth module. That is something we covered in a prior video, but this is actually a brand new report. It's in response to your requests for more transparency about the information that goes into a teacher's growth score that's being used for merit pay. So let's take a look. Three key things are the purpose of this module. It's to provide school and district administrators, those are the ones who have access, with information to understand teacher impact on student learning across the various entities for which they're responsible, classroom, grade level, depending on the role of the teacher. To provide transparency in the teacher value-added scores that are used for merit pay awards, and to identify teachers in the top quartile based on subject area for student placement. The module is very simple in that there are just tables with filters and sortable columns. The devil's in the details in terms of the data provided, so let's get to those details. Here you see the landing page, and it literally is just filters. The filters are important. On the left-hand side of the landing page, you have a filter for year. That's the fiscal year for the teachers in terms of where they are right now. So it says 2025 because this is going to be the teachers that you have in your system in the school year 2024-25. Below that, you have a filter for subject, and this could be a little confusing. The scores that are going to be pulled for these different subjects are actually from 2024. There's a composite score, which includes all subjects that a teacher may have been linked to a student. And then there are subject-specific tables. Those are for ELA, math, and science. Now, you may be wondering if you were an algebra or geometry teacher or a biology teacher, you're going to click on math for algebra and geometry. You're going to click on science for biology. Those are included in these three general topics. On the right-hand side, you're going to be able to search or filter by a specific teacher's last name or first name, and then you're also going to have two other filters. You're going to have a teacher role filter where you can look for the teachers that you rostered as primary for those students, secondary for the students, or a contributing professional, the contributor. You also have a filter for top quartile for growth. This is only going to apply when you are in the subject filter. So if you do ELA, math, or science, you will actually have data on whether or not a teacher's growth score is in the top quartile. If you're in the composite field or the composite filter, then you're going to see just NA for not applicable because this only applies to subject specific. So these are the column headers based on the choices. The composite choice gives you 3 years of annual scores, so an annual composite score. Say I'm an elementary teacher and I teach ELA, math, and science. My composite score, if I'm rostered to students for all of those subjects, is going to consist of the growth scores for those students for all of those subjects. And then these 2022, 2023, and 2024 composite scores are calculated into a 3-year weighted average. It's weighted by the number of students in each of those years that are associated with that score. Now, I left off the column for top quartile because it doesn't have any meaning for the composite score. There isn't a top quartile provided for the composite score. It just says NA for every single teacher. So don't spend your time trying to figure that out like I did. Take my word for it. Then for the subject, you can see that you have a subject score for each of the years, similar to how you had a composite score. Those subject scores are averaged into the student weighted 3-year average, and those are also weighted by the number of students in each of those annual subject-specific growth scores. And then you will have information about whether or not a teacher's score is in the top quartile for the 3-year weighted average in 2024. So it's the 3 years, 2022, 23, and 24. Those go into the 2024 student weighted 3-year average. And if a teacher has one of those, then they are evaluated against the top quartile, and you'll get an indication, yes or no. I believe it's a check mark. We'll take a look at that. All right, let's take a look at some details here. I've pulled in several rows of teachers. They happen to all be in the primary teacher role. The very top row has all 3 years of scores. That means that that teacher was linked to students in 2022 for math, 2023 for math, and 2024 for math, and they were able to have a 3-year weighted average calculated. In the case of row number 1, you see a green check mark under top quartile for growth. That means that this is a teacher that you can place students with for mathematics because they're a top quartile teacher. Students who are eligible for being placed with a top quartile teacher. This is your person. If you note the row where there are, I've circled it in green. I've put a green square around it actually, if I'm going to be mathematically precise. You can see that this teacher does have 3 years of growth, but their particular growth score is not in the top quartile. So I wanted to call out that difference. Also, there are several rows where you have scores for the teacher. Row 2, row 3 are good examples. In row 2, the teacher doesn't have a 2022 score, so they will not have a 3-year student weighted 3-year average. And because they don't have that weighted average, the 3-year, they won't be considered in the top quartile. And then in row 3, you can see this teacher had students linked in 2022, but is no longer linked in 2023 or 24. So this gives you a lot of transparency into the system and the scores that go into that final score that's considered in merit pay, and that is that student weighted 3-year average. So these scores differ in a couple of important ways from the scores that you had in the classroom module that was released much earlier this year. The scores in this module have your highly mobile students removed. Those are kids who enroll in your school or classroom after October 1. They're removed, and then also you're not going to have a score in here for any group of students that's less than 10 because that's a highly unreliable N number for us to put into something as important as being considered eligible for merit pay. So the student 3-year weighted average is used for top quartile of the subject-specific scores. And the other thing to note is that the student-to-teacher link is from the 2024 roster verification system. And since the 2025 roster verification system is about to open this weekend, it's a good time to get in here and make sure you understand all the data that you have in here. There are some newly released resources by DESE. Charlie Croson has put together a set of slides on the teacher growth score data and trends module. They have many more details than what I covered here. They have subject and course lists for each of the 3 years if you're wondering why you do or do not have a score. I encourage you to click on the link and take note of those slides. They also detail additional business rules for the calculations, and they include the DESE contacts for questions. So please take a look at that slideshow. I know that Charlie Croson is also working on a video for that slideshow, and that should be available soon as well. Another one that's incredibly important that I just learned about yesterday is there's a DESE set of slides on the 2025 annual ratings for merit pay eligibility. And this one is about what you need to do to make sure that teachers are eligible if they meet the requirements for merit pay. There's a difference between being eligible. There is a big pool of teachers and contributing professionals that are going to be eligible. There's a difference between eligibility and actually receiving the award, and this is going to go into some of those details. So one of the most important things to note is that the 2025 annual ratings that are part of this are due in the educator effectiveness system by the end of day, April 30th, 2025. So ratings have an impact on merit pay eligibility depending on which of the categories a teacher is eligible for, and this details that. Details of the new report that's available that provides administrators with merit pay eligibility requirements so that they can clearly see what needs to be done for each of their teachers. And there is a new requirement in the rating system. It is a positive impact on student growth artifact. And that's going to be important for you to check out the details in these slides. Finally, please stay tuned. In our next video, we would love to discuss questions that you have about merit pay. So email us at oep@uark.edu. Anything you have questions about in terms of teacher growth scores, eligibility. Oh, and because roster verification is opening, there's some good lessons learned that are going to be shared in the sessions that DESE does. And we also have lessons learned from all the work that was done this year with the data behind the rosters of students to teachers. So stay tuned, email us your questions, and we'll see you soon.